You've probably already worked out by now that number one is Lamine Yamal. Who else, obviously? We're joined now from Spain by Sid Lowe. I'm sure you're sick of talking about just how good he is, but we're going to ask you again, how good is he?
Well, did you know that he was only 17?
Someone mentioned it once, yeah.
It feels like this kind of this preface to everything you say about him, or you have to say how good he is and then go, oh, and he's only 17. But I think we probably shouldn't get away from that. That all of the things that he's doing at an age where a lot of players are still not even playing first team football. I think, of course, there's a risk that we project onto him what we think he's going to be rather than just what he is being. But what he's been so far this season has been fantastic. He's definitely amongst the best 3 or 4 players in Spain this season. He does things with the ball that I don't think anyone else can do. I think he's carrying a responsibility for Barcelona to make things happen, even in those games when he's either not finishing or not providing the final pass. And so maybe the statistics don't quite bear out how influential he is. I think he's been hugely important. And yeah, you come back to the age, but I think even if you strip away the age and just look at the performances, he's a fantastic footballer.
I know that we like labelling every young footballer as the next Messi. Is there a genuine reason to do it, Jules, with Lamine Yamal? Are we talking about?
Yeah. I mean, remember, was it last season, say, when Michel, the Girona manager, was saying like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. Like, he's as good as Messi was, and certainly he's at 17 now. He's played more than Messi did and has done better than what Messi had done at 17 too. So the rest, I don't know. I don't know how many Ballon d'Or he will win, or World Cups, or Champions League, etc., league titles, all of that. Nobody knows. But so for now, he's certainly ahead of what where Messi was at the same age. And it's a different era, it's a different team.
Messi had Ronaldinho in front of him.
Sure.
He has Ferran Torres.
Okay. So that means it's even more remarkable, right, for Lamine to do that, I guess. But yeah, I just think when you talk about gift and just pure footballing gift, and some in this list had to work really hard to get here, some were just naturally gifted. I think Lamine is the best of them all because he just had this incredible gift too.
He has ridiculous physical gifts as well, and the physical maturity and an intellectual maturity that you don't often see. There's I mean, Sid can tell us better than anyone, but there's a tremendous amount of pressure to play for Barcelona anytime somebody at that age gets to the first team. He has the physicality and he can thank his genes for that. But the mentality, I mean, the guy is zen. The guy's unflappable. Very rarely do you see him make a bad decision or lose his cool. I mean, occasionally it's happened. People kick lumps out of him. I'm trying to think of a player at a club of this magnitude that has been in the first team and looked the part looked like a veteran this early in his career. And I'm really, really struggling.
Look, I think he's an amazing player, and I'm not doubting any of this. But the Messi thing, it's like, he's 17. Messi does seem to get better and better and better. Maybe Yamal is approaching his peak faster than anyone else has. To sustain this for 10, 15 years like Messi has,
sure.
That is tough. And obviously it's a different position as well. Clearly it's going to be, you talk about potential Ballon d'Or winners, you talk about Mbappe, talk about Haaland, and this guy's probably going to be more than any of them. But still, it doesn't mean that he's going to be doing what Messi did at 27 when he's 27.
So if he stays at this level for the rest of his career,
of course,
he's still one of the best players in the world.
Absolutely.
If he just doesn't improve at all.
Yeah, it's just hard to... I don't think Messi and Ronaldo set the bar so incredibly, unattainably high that we just have to be careful about billing people as the next this or that. So, Sid, is the next Messi?
Well, I mean, look, what Gab says, I think there's an important point here, and this goes back to what I was saying about projection. And I think sometimes what happens, you get a young player that's really good, and you assume they will keep improving. And in a way, that makes it so that if take Gab's scenario, in which you've got a player that's this good and remains this good, and remains this good for the rest of his career, we'll go, wow, what a player. But then there is a possibility that within that context, and to be honest, I felt this happened a little bit, for example, with Ryan Giggs. But because you project onto them at 18, well, if they're already this good, imagine how good they will be. But it might not be that projection keeps happening and that evolution keeps happening. To specifically kind of align him with Messi and to try and see where that may end up. It's true that he's done more at this age than Messi had done at this age, partly, as Gab says, because of the players ahead of him and therefore the opportunity comes sooner. And I think had Barcelona been in better condition, these opportunities might not have happened so quickly. And so we certainly wouldn't be looking at Lamine Yamal as European champion with Spain. Because, of course, you don't get that chance with Spain until you get the chance with a club. The other thing that I think is potentially different, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see if Lamine can do this, is I think if you look at Messi's career, I think you can see 3 different Messis at least, in terms of the evolution of position, of the type of the game that he played, from that kind of electric winger to being the false 9, to then being the guy that was sort of dropping deep and playing those clever, subtle passes all the time. And I think one of the games that probably most stood out for people watching Lamine this year was away at Mallorca. Now, it's only Mallorca, and Mallorca, without doubt, made life slightly easy for him, but he plays a couple of extraordinary passes with the outside of his foot from a deeper position. And then you look at it and you think, this isn't the 17-year-old that wows us. This isn't the kid that's really fast, that takes people on, that's fearless because maybe he's not yet aware of the pressure around him, and that is really exciting. This is a kid that has a subtlety of touch and of vision as well. And I think that's one of the reasons to kind of hang on to the hope that he might evolve into something even greater, because I think there's a variety to what he does, not just that, as I say, that emergence of this young, fast winger who takes everyone on, because we've seen a lot of those kind of players. This is someone with a little bit more to him, I think.
If we're talking about someone who could possibly be the face of football then, Gab, for the next decade, what are the obstacles for him to get there? Is it a risk of too much football, of burnout? Is he the type of character who could possibly be distracted by what is going to come naturally with his talent and fame?
Well, I mean, as far as I understand, in terms of his family and his private life, there's no immediate red flags, maybe, or potential red flags. Sid maybe can speak to this a little more. I think what Sid said there about his evolution, because let's face it, when you're in the wing, you don't generally get to make 60-yard passes with the outside of your boot. But if he can do that too, kind of like Varane or Zidane did, then maybe his position evolves. Maybe he plays off the striker. It's still a piece of clay. In many ways, there's a reason why when we see young players get into a team very young, generally they're forwards or wingers. It's because you've got, in some ways, not less responsibility, but simpler responsibility, more latitude for making mistakes and so on. I feel like he's evolved past that. He's shown that he can be the winger who runs at people and puts in crosses and occasionally finish. But he can do a lot more.
He's playing a lot more at his age than Messi did, than Cristiano Ronaldo did. And you look at people like Brazilian Ronaldo, who was playing at this age, fantastic superstar. Wayne Rooney.
I was waiting for you to mention Wayne Rooney.
No, but Michael Owen, that some players, especially forwards, if they're not managed properly and they are overworked, the injuries start. I mean,
that's one of the risks, yeah.
And that is the big risk with Lamine Yamal, because there is a danger that Spain and Barcelona will continue to play him all the time. That's where you have to manage their career. Like I say, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo weren't playing as regularly as he is at that age.
Sid, where do you stand on that then? How do Barcelona manage him between now and his fantastic future? What do they have to do to make sure that they can?
Let's bring the two things together. One is the physical side of it, and the other is what Gab was alluding to in terms of the surroundings. And actually, Barcelona have been very conscious of that already, because the surroundings aren't easy for Lamine Yamal. His dad is a kind of almost a sort of social media celebrity now as well, and there's been a very conscious attempt, I think, from Barcelona to manage his development as a kid as well, to keep him, for example, in the residency at La Masia for as long as possible, to try and help to kind of guide him. And there's always a risk, I think, of being over smothering in those scenarios, being over paternal. But Barcelona, I think, have been conscious of that. And the early signs are that he's very bright, very well aware of the environment he's in, and very, very capable of handling that. The physical side of it, it's interesting that this happens with Barcelona as well, because, of course, with Barcelona, there's lots of red flags in their very recent past. We all thought Ansu Fati was going to be a phenomenal player. And actually, to start with, he clearly was. But he's had big injuries, partly for being overworked, but partly, of course, his injuries being 2 knee ligament injuries are a misfortune rather than just overwork. There's been an awareness of the misfortune that befell Gavi, and in particular, the overuse of Pedri. So the year that Pedri played the Euros, which is the year that the pandemic Euros that was all around 21. Europe. Yeah. And then he goes to the Olympics as well. And he played, I think, something like 72 or 73 games that season. It may even have been more. I can't remember the exact number. And there was very, very conscious awareness from everybody that this nearly did real damage to him. And I think there will be a care taken there. But the problem, of course, with this whole debate about taking care of our players, and it was really, really evident with Pedri, and I think it will become evident with Lamine. In fact, I think it already has been on occasions, is, of course, you've got the national team and your club involved. And as we've seen, whenever this debate comes up about fixtures and the calendar being too big and there being too many games, everyone always says you have to play fewer games. Yeah, but don't play fewer of mine, play fewer of yours. And so everybody kind of says, well, no, I want him to be rested when he's with you, not when he's with me. And I think Lamine himself may need to be a little bit proactive in that, but there's certainly sufficient warnings to try to protect him.
Thanks, Sid, for joining us. I think we're all in agreement Lamine Yamal is a deserved number one pick.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all for this week. Don't forget to check out the full list on ESPN.com. We'll be back next week to discuss PSG's post-Mbappe resurgence with Jules and also hear from Harry Kane ahead of the Classica. Thanks for listening and see you then.